I have 10 tips for you on how to use Genie Plus and Lightning Lane at Walt Disney World. These are the best tips on how to use Genie Plus, on how to really maximize your day. Tip number 1. Someone has to be in charge. You have to have a ringleader who is linked to everyone in your party, whether it be 2 people or whether it be 10 people, and have them be the one that's in charge, that's making those Lightning Lane selections. So for Genie Plus, you can have up to 12 people linked, and that one individual can make the Lightning Lane selections for those 12 people. If you're doing the individual Lightning Lane selections, you can only link 10 people for the purchase, not 12 people. So in that case, you'll have to have 2 people in charge to coordinate trying to get the same return times. But I'll explain more as we go through these tips, and you'll understand why one person needs to be in charge, but you definitely need to have one ringleader. Tip number 2, you're gonna drain your battery. Unfortunately, with this new service, you're gonna be on your phone all day. And I hate it, I don't like it. I don't wanna have my face in my phone all day. I'd rather enjoy the moment. But in order to make these selections, you're gonna need to be in your phone, you're gonna need to be refreshing, you're gonna have to look at wait times, there's a lot of things that you're gonna need to do on your phone, and your battery is gonna die. You probably won't make it all day. So you definitely need to have a backup battery, an external charger. I have one that I absolutely love. You can charge 2 phones at a time. I'll go ahead and link it in the description box below. It's from Amazon. And then also don't forget your power cord, because you will absolutely need it. Tip number 3, refresh. Refresh, refresh. You are going to need to keep refreshing your phone, and what that means is that when you're in the app and you're on the tip board, you're going to see all of the different rides that participate in Genie Plus, and you're going to be looking at the return times for them. If you don't like a return time that you see, just pull down on your screen and it will refresh, and a lot of times new times will appear. I can personally attest to this on our last trip, which goes against rule number 1, but my husband and I were both on there at the same time. We were testing things, we were comparing things, and noticed that even though we were at the same park, at the same place, at the same time, different return times were popping up for both of us, and by refreshing, we were able to find earlier times quite often. Sometimes it would go to later times, and then we'd check back a few hours later, and there'd be a much earlier time. So just make sure you know how to use the refresh on your phone and pull down and refresh your screen to get the best times available. Tip number 4, and maybe the most important one, is understanding the 2-hour rule. So you can make a new Genie Plus selection every 2 hours, or when you scan in to your selection, then you can make another one. So where this comes into play is that you can make your first selection starting at 7 a.m. and then you can make your second selection 2 hours after the posted park opening, and that is the park opening for everyone. It's not the 30 minutes if you are an on-site guest and get in early. So just note that most of the time it's going to be on the hour. And then, so say the park opens at 9 o'clock that day. If you didn't have a selection that fell between 9 and 11, you could make your next selection after 11, because that is 2 hours after park opening. And this kind of comes into play when you're holding multiple return times at once, and that's kind of how you're going to stack them, is by making sure that you're on it every 2 hours. If you are ever in doubt, try to make one and the system will tell you if it's been 2 hours or not. I highly recommend your ringleader, your one person, is going to set an alarm. So when they make one, they'll go and set an alarm on their phone, and then it will alert them when it's time to make another one. Or that they need to remember that once they scan into a ride, that they can then make another selection. Tip number 5 is your return times can overlap. You're gonna see this most in the afternoon hours, when in the morning, like, a lot of the return times start to fill up and you're booking a little farther out. It's okay if you have a return time for 3 to 4 for one ride, and then you're able to pick up another one from 3:30 to 4:30. It's okay if those times overlap. Just make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get to one attraction, ride it, and then get to another. But this is a great way to really utilize Genie Plus and really blow through those return times in a day. Tip number 6. Most of the time, you are only going to have one Genie Plus Lightning Lane return time at a time, and that's okay. Most of the time, you're going to be able to really stack those lightning lanes and hold on to more of them later in the afternoon. That seems to be when you're able to pick, in my experience at least, you're able to pick up more of the return times. And if you're only holding one at a time, it's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. A lot of this service is going to depend on how many people are in the parks and how many people purchased the Genie Plus service on the day that you are there. If there's a lot of people in the parks and a lot of people are using it, those return times are gonna fill up faster. If not as many people are using it that day, you're gonna be able to stack them a little bit more. But either way, you're using the service and you're saving time in line. Tip number 7, don't miss your return time. It leads to problems. So once you pick your time, you do have a grace period. They generally will let you in 5 minutes prior to your return time and 15 minutes after. That is the discretion of the cast member that's stationed there, so that is not set in stone, but they do give you a little bit of a grace period. So if you miss your return time, you won't be able to make another one for that ride. You can only get one return time per day per ride, and if you miss it, you miss it. And then you're gonna have issues trying to make another one. If you didn't scan in for it, you're gonna have to find some of the guest experience cast members throughout the park. You're going to see them, there's blue umbrellas, they're wearing blue shirts, and they're gonna have to clear it out for you, and then you're gonna have to make a new return time. But you're not gonna be able to do it for that ride again. If you wanna ride that ride, you're gonna have to stand in standby. Tip number 8, you can't modify. So this comes back to missing your return time. You can cancel your Genie Plus Lightning Lane return time, but you cannot modify it. So if you know you're gonna miss it, you can cancel it. The only bad part about that is that if you cancel it and you make another one, that's fine, but then you're restarting that 2-hour clock again, and so it limits how many you're gonna pick up in the day because you're getting set back 2 hours, if that makes sense. So the best thing to do is not to miss that return time, and know when you're making that Genie Plus selection that you're gonna actually make that ride. Tip number 9, you don't have to be in the park to make a selection. So this can help you out in 2 different ways. Number 1, wake up at 7 a.m. and make your Genie Plus return time, your first Genie Plus return time. But if you are going to park hop, you can make a return time for another park even if you're not in that park. So what we have done is we often park hop. On our last trip, we spent the day at Hollywood Studios. We made our Genie Plus selections there, and then before we left, we used our last one and we made our selection for Magic Kingdom, and by the time we got to Magic Kingdom, it was time, and we started using them there. So that is really a good feature if you are park hopping, to be able to make them even if you're not in that park. Tip number 10, and maybe the best tip of all. So the night before, go into the Genie service, and it's gonna ask you for your must-dos, the rides that you wanna ride. Pick one. Pick the ride that you want to make that Genie Plus return time selection for first that day, because the next morning at 7 a.m. when you're probably still half asleep and you get on there to make that selection, seconds count. Seconds count, especially right now for Slinky Dog Dash. The Genie Plus return times for Slinky Dog go like in 2 minutes and they're all gone. So by picking that one ride that you want to ride, Slinky Dog, and you go onto the tip board in the morning, that is going to be the ride that's going to appear first. You don't have to search for it. The listings are listed alphabetically, so you don't have to scroll all the way down to Slinky. It'll be right on the top, and you can pick it really quick and go ahead and book that Genie Plus return time, because they go fast and you don't want to miss it, and seconds count. Okay, so those are 10 fantastic tips for using Genie Plus at Walt Disney World. If you have a tip to use Genie Plus, go ahead and tell me what it is in the comments below. This service has only been around for a few months, and I know that we're all learning and playing with it and experimenting and learning new things about it every day. I am by no means an expert, but I have used it multiple times, and I feel like I'm really kind of getting a handle on how to use it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love for you to subscribe if you have not already. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!